Hello everyone, I'm Natasha Watson and I'm a senior structural engineer with Buro Happold Engineering, which is a global company working from LA all the way over to Hong Kong, working in the built environment. So anything from cities to towns to university campuses to buildings. And being a structural engineer, I work predominantly on buildings, and I essentially do the calculations to make sure that the building doesn't fall down. Along with that, there's a lot of design and creativity that goes into how to achieve the spaces that the architect and the client and everyone needs with the minimal amount of structure. So what are the fewest columns that you can put here? What's the shallowest beam you can put there? That kind of thing. A little bit about my career journey. I did 4 A-levels in maths, physics, chemistry, and art and design. When I was 18, I didn't know if I wanted to be an architect or an engineer. I decided against architecture because I really enjoyed the maths and science aspect. And I think I enjoyed having a problem and then finding the solution, which I think I didn't want to necessarily just use my creativity and not have the maths and the science to back it up. But that was my decision, and I chose to do civil and architectural engineering at the University of Bath. They offered me, I think, AAB at A level, and I needed to have done at least maths. I think physics was preferable as well. And then, so that was a 5-year course. That's because I did a year in industry. So I took a year out from my studies to go and work at Atkins Rail. So they do sort of railway design and things like that. And then I also took 6 months to do work experience at Buro Happold. And I liked it so much that that's why I wanted to go there after I graduated. So I graduated in 2010 from my undergrad, and in 2010 there was still a lot of fallout from the 2008 financial crisis, so I couldn't get a graduate job. And I wanted to stay where I'm based, which is in the southwest in a city called Bath. So I had good enough grades from my undergraduate to actually apply to do a PhD. So the PhD is actually something called, well, a PhD is typically a university-based endeavour, but what I applied to do was called an engineering doctorate. So it's kind of a way of combining academic knowledge with industry experience. So you kind of fulfill a research question that a company poses, and Buro Happold, who I did want to work with, they proposed the question, which was, why aren't we using more sustainable building materials in the UK? So thankfully I got that, and I got to work with the University of Bath, University of Bristol, and Buro Happold on this research question, figuring out why we don't use sustainable building materials as much within the UK. So that was between 2010 and 2015. I got my I got my NGD, so I'm now Dr. Natasha Watson, which is great when you're filling in forms. And it doesn't get old. And since 2015, I've been working as a structural engineer with Buro Happold in Bath, working on a variety of different building types. Buro Happold works on unusual buildings, I think is what I like, the only way of really like grouping them all together. So in my time, I've worked on the Battersea Power Station redevelopment. And I got to stay in London for about 6 months to do that. I've also worked on really small scale timber projects. So there's an architecture school that's based in a forest down in Devon. So we used local timber to build a caretaker's house there. And that was built on recycled steel tubes, which were used as the foundations, which I thought was really cool. And the third project that I've worked on is a lemur research station in northwest Madagascar. I got to go there last year. They were using, so we proposed that they use these locally produced bricks. So we shipped off this brick press, and the bricks can be used with the soil that they have there, and you squish it into shape, and it's almost like a cross between brick and Lego. So it's got like ridges at the top and ridges on the side that interlock together. So you don't need as much mortar to connect the bricks together, which is good because cement is really expensive, and it takes about 2 days for the cement to get to site. So the least amount of cement that we can use, the better. So that's a little bit about me. Buro Happold itself, I've been asked whether or not our company accepts students or apprentices or grads. If you're a school student, we do work experience days and outreach activities as well, locally from Bath, but then also we have an office in London, got an office in Leeds, in Manchester, and in Edinburgh as well. So if you're based near one of those places, one of those offices will also be doing outreach activities kind of throughout the year. If you're an apprentice, we do actually have apprenticeship vacancies on our website. So I'll do something like post a link onto my profile or something so you can see that. And in terms of graduate jobs, we do offer those as well. So that's also through the current vacancies link. So you should be able to see it on that. So I've also been asked, what's it like being a woman in the engineering sector? I don't really think about it too much. I think when I started my undergrad, there were no women in final year of university. So that was 2005 on my course. Today, working at Buro Happold in 2020, 50% of our technical staff are women. So I think a lot has changed on my career journey. And I think that it's only going to get better. If anyone says to you that, being a woman in any way is going to limit your success, they don't know enough about engineering sector. I've never seen myself as being a woman as being any barrier to me being an engineer. But also it means that if people see your gender as a boon to the industry, I think also that's a bit that's difficult, because then you're attributing certain behaviours and attitudes as being inherently female. And I think that's detrimental as well. So, yeah, I don't really know how to answer that one. I think when I was working on site for 6 months, I was by myself. I was, I think, 20, it was late 20s, but yeah, I was by myself on site. I was the only Buro Happold representative. Everyone else there was a hardened site worker. There was very few female female staff there from the subcontractors or anything, but and there were some people who thought I was the secretary. So I kind of treated that with humour. However, the main contractor that I was working with, so the other company that also had a large role to play on the site, they got really angry with this, and they used to fight my battles. And I think it was, I mean, I feel like I should have gotten angry, but I don't know. I think it was, yeah, I just found it quite funny. Especially when I turned around and said, no, I'm the site engineer, just to see their faces drop. I think that's enough rambling on that. Okay, advice I'd give to a female student considering it as a career. Go for it. I think that incentives like this, as well as other sort of career advice platforms and discussions and workshops and things like that, we need to have more representation, that it is a diverse workforce. There's far to go, but I think we need to have more non-white representation. We need to have more female representation. We need to have more representation from people who didn't do maths and physics at A level. So even though I did, there are people who work at Buro Happold in, say, transport planning or in master planning, who didn't do maths and physics, and they still get to do the kind of creative, creating spaces for people job that I do. So I think as a female student, you shouldn't feel as if anything to do with your gender will impact your success and career development. So yeah, go for it. We need more people in STEM, and if we were to only hire men, then we'd have only 50% of the people that we need in STEM. Finally, where have I found support? I find support in my peers. Like throughout undergrad, there are times where the course is a bit tough. So it's good to let off steam and to work together. Joining the company that I work at, what's really nice is that there's quite a few young people within the company. It's big enough as well so that you can find your people. And I get a lot of support from them as well. Like if we think that a line manager isn't taking something seriously enough, or we're currently working with a contractor that's making us feel small, or we're thinking of going for a promotion and we want to talk it through with our peers, we do. We also talk about pay grades and bonuses and stuff, and I think it's easier to kind of talk to your peers about that kind of thing. I also get a lot of support from my line manager. So when I was a student placement, my line manager was a grad, so he's only, I think, 2 years older than I am, and he's been my line manager for a while now, and he's really lovely, and he knows that his job is to make sure that I feel appreciated and wanted and fairly rewarded for the work that I do. And that's the kind of line manager that you need. So I think if there is one piece of advice, it's when you do get to the stage of working in a company, is making sure that you trust your line manager and you trust that they have your best interests at heart. Yeah, I think that's about it. So thank you for listening.